And welcome back. We are about to venture off into our third and final segment for the morning. We actually had two a while ago. Third and final, World Water Day. Water being the most important element in society, in life. But for World Water Day, which is coming up on the 18th to the 22nd of March, we've got the folks in to tell us all about it. As a matter of fact, we've got Tennielle Williams in, who is hydrologist of the National Hydrological Service. That word need a shackleman. We have Shanee, Rhabrun, I hope I get it correctly this time, who is from the Department of the Environment, actually governmental technician. And we also have Leshanti Jones, who is the PR officer at the Ministry of Natural Resources. Ladies, good morning. Yeah, it's hard to talk right now, but that's what we're doing. It's so nice to see you all in. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
World Water Day. Discussion is hot. We've been discussing this for many years, and so to hear about it now, it's something that we definitely could reckon with. The 18th to the 22nd, let's jump on it. World Water Day.
World Water Day, I'm no stranger to Marlene. We've been here every year discussing World Water Day, and this year we're tackling all the issues that we've discussed in previous years, you know, and the theme this year is leaving no one behind. So in all the other teams, there was always something being left out. And so now we're saying water for all. So our team, yes, is leaving no one behind. Our campaign is whoever you are, wherever you are, water is your human right. So if you sum it up, it's water for all.
Yeah.
All right, so what we're doing is tackling the crisis between why people are being left behind and water management.
So that brings into sharp focus one of the most critical areas, I'd imagine. What is our water coverage across this country? How many people have access and how many people don't?
Okay, it's a good thing that you said access, because that is one of the problems that they were highlighting in the water fact sheet, is that you can have water. It can be clean or it can be contaminated. Right? So we want to know whether you can use it and whether you have access to use it. Because everybody can use it, but doesn't mean you have access to use it. Right? So that's one of the problems that we're also tackling. But to answer your question, the country reported 99.99% coverage, having access to safe and affordable water supplies.
Wow.
Wow.
That's some good news.
And so that 0.01 is what, a rural area?
I really haven't delved into the disaggregation of the data, but I'm thinking that it's also dealing with those areas that don't have accessible water piped to their homes. Because we have some areas that are very hilly. It's very costly to put in infrastructure. So we can't have that. It's a big investment, right? So it's not that it's not being looked at. It's just that we don't want to leave anyone behind, not knowing that they have this challenge and that we need to address it.
Leaving no one behind is definitely something to reckon with. And I feel proud knowing that we've got 99.99% coverage across our country. Thank God, I hope we're leading. I hope we're leaving. But the team, locally?
Locally, we have different issues, not so much as the ones that they highlighted. Let me highlight what they said were the global issues. In other countries, you have about 1.8 billion people not having access to water. So that's a high point for us. We have almost complete coverage. We have marginalized groups being discriminated. In countries like Egypt, Libya, in the Eastern Africa, some of them have to sell their children for survival because I'm going to sell my child to you because you have access to safe water and I can ensure your survival. So you see, we say human trafficking is not something good, but it is in all facets of life. And so a mother and a father has to make a choice. Am I going to keep my child and watch him die or her die? Or am I going to sell her to a family that I know has access to the resources to ensure her survival? We don't have that problem here. So again, we have a plus. And again, the last one that we have already touched on is having access to water, which we have complete coverage of that. We have access to safe, affordable water supplies for domestic use.
And I think that's part of what the challenge is when we celebrate World Water Day, that we see it as an infinite resource. We are a coastal community, or we have riverways, so we see water everywhere, and we turn on the tap and it's there. And for those who like the taste, they can drink it. But we don't have water shortages. We don't have droughts. if we just look at what happens in California, where they have to monitor how much water you can use, what you can do with your water. How do you bring the perspective home to people? When I feel like if I want a drink of water right now, if I don't get my bottled, or I could go to the tap, you know, if I live in a village, I could go to the river. How do you make people remember that this is an essential right that we have?
Right. Just to bring it into perspective, we do have droughts. We just don't have major droughts.
Yeah.
So in the north, every year, we are either under a drought warning or a drought watch.
Okay.
And so this is done with regional climate modeling. And again, you brought it up that we're not doing enough public awareness for people to know that we actually experience drought.
Yeah.
But we don't have major droughts. And it's basically meteorological droughts, which means it's just from shortage of rainfall. We're not getting into the hydrological droughts, which is a wole, not
which means it dries up the supply.
Right, it dries up your groundwater.
Yeah.
So we do experience these events. To bring it home, none of our water originates in Belize.
Oh, I was
all
going
of
to
our
get
rivers
there.
come from a different country. It's either Guatemala, Mexico, or jointly. All right, so we have 5 transboundary rivers. We start with Rio Hondo in the north, then we come down to the Mopan, and the Mopan, which forms a part of the Belize River. Then we have the Sarstoon, the Tamash, and the Moho River.
Yeah.
All right, so all of our major supplies come from another country. So that's something that we really need to take home.
Of course.
We're getting what's left. No matter how you try to toss that coin, it's either heads or tails. We are getting what is left. So we have to be overly conscious of how we're using our water supplies. Added to that is that we have a very large productive sector, which takes up a lot of water from our rivers. And so we need to be very conscientious in how we're using our water supplies. I think the last study we had showed about 23 or 25 buckets of water per person in Belize. Now, we have that myth that we have a lot of water, but it's due to our population size. If our population was to boom to 1 million people, we would be experiencing some changes in access to water.
That's true.
Because we have a higher demand on our water resources.
That's
so
true.
we might have a lot of rivers, but we have a small population.
Yeah.
If that population tends to increase, and it does so exponentially, then we really have to look into how we're managing our water resources from a personal level right up to the national level.
You know, and when you talk about the source of our water, I think that's always something that fascinates me, because we just finished talking about Belize-Guatemala relations, and I know that that's one of the things, if I can get DOE in here, that you guys have pushed for a very long time, talking about the water that comes into the country, looking at how we interact with the waterways and what potential that has with people downstream. Tell me about some of perhaps the testing and monitoring that we do to ensure that we know the quality of the water as soon as we get access to it.
Okay, well, first of all, for Department of the Environment, we are mandated to look at wastewater. So we look at the effluent regulations, and with that, there are different companies that have environmental clearance in country. And one of the, what I would say, programs that they have to have is a water monitoring program. That water monitoring program will then look at testing the quality of water that we are sending out to the environment, and that has to meet certain guidelines in our regulations. If it is not met, then you have to let that water recycle over in that same company through that same water treatment system that you have. For different companies, there are different standards. Say, for example, for the brewing company, there's a different standard than it is for a shrimp industry. So everyone doesn't run with the same program. It's a different program for each company. And so that is what we're doing. And one of the things that we also ensure is that there is a effluent license that needs to be given to each company that meets those standards. If you're not given that license, then it means that you're illegally dumping water into the environment.
So yesterday we had a conversation about Reef Week, and one of the things that was highlighted was looking at what the reef is showing about our water quality. So there's algae growing on the reef that when they do their studies shows that, one, human waste is making its way. The bacteria from human waste is making its way to the reef. and wastewater, agricultural runoff is also a contributing factor there. So it seems that perhaps there are some areas that we really need to focus on. What do you say to this from your perspective in dealing with water quality?
Okay, just to give the first and then let Shanee explain the technical end. It has to do with land use planning, and that's the section that resides within the Ministry of Natural Resources. So we have an existing land use policy, but it's not adequate, and so they're updating it. And so when you're updating, you're looking at watershed management, you're looking at land conversion, you're looking at the agricultural runoff, what pesticides are you using, what concentration are you releasing it into, and then we collaborate with the Department of the Environment, who then monitors those levels, as Shanee explained, that we need to make sure that the ambient water quality is the same as when you release it back. You take it out at a certain quality, and the environment requires that same quality. So you need to return it at that same level. So that's how we work together in terms of dealing with the issues that we're now seeing with the reef studies in terms of what is fecal coliform and total coliform reaching all the way out to the reef.
The technical part of it.
Yes, one of the things we not only saying companies, because we do have persons that don't have access to a proper sewage waste treatment system at home, or people wash their vehicles, they use the bathroom wherever it is. So all of that is a runoff that ends up. So when you dispose of, say, sewage waste in the river, it just doesn't stay there. Remember, it goes downstream, it attaches to the sea, and then it ends up on the reef. And those are things that we also have to look at. It might not have to be technical, but I mean, it could be a part of common sense. You leave something, it's not staying there, it's moving on. So that's one of the things we have to look on.
And then I think the fishes that eat the algae off the reef, and then we eat the fishes, and then I start to think, oh no, we need to fix this.
And we get large fishes, and we're saying, oh, healthy fish. Right? So those are things we do have to look at as well.
Primary for me, and what you mentioned is very important, Marlene, because primary for me is actually the watershed. Watershed, which of course is the main source of water within especially the rural areas. What are we doing as a Department of the Environment in getting into these areas so folks know the importance of their watershed, and especially being that the primary source?
Okay. I'm not sure if it was 2016 or 2017 that we did the water quality testing, starting from San Ignacio area all the way down to Belize. So we did the entire river. And so with that, we noticed that there are peaks in certain areas when it comes to the quality of the water. By peaks, I'm not saying it's unhealthy, or I'm not saying it's extremely healthy as well, right? But there are peaks that you would see the difference in the quality of water in certain areas, and those areas that would have the high peaks would be areas that have a lot of farming next to the riverside, or you'd have companies that actually dispose water into the environment in those areas. And so that information and that data that we collected allows us to then look at how we are getting out there when it comes to communications to different organizations, companies, different persons, different villages, different areas in the country. And so that makes us know that we're possibly falling short in certain areas, because we do fall short in certain areas. And so that helps us to look at another year and say, okay, in this budget year, we'll make sure that we reach out to these different areas that we didn't reach last year. So that's something we also look at.
What's the greatest threat that comes to mind for you when you think of our water supply in Belize?
We said it before, you can have a lot of water. If it's contaminated, we can't use it. So really, we are our own worst enemy if we're not taking care of it, because the environment won't damage itself. It's not, it's not created that way. So it's really anthropogenic activities. We're our own worst enemy if we don't take care of it.
If we don't keep it clean.
Right. It's just like your bodies. You put junk in, you get junk out. It's the same concept. Just that nature is trying to help us in terms of creating trees. You know, we have different soil layers that do natural filtration. You have your riparian forests, which do the filtration, which would stop some of the agrochemicals. It's not all, but it would stop most of them from entering your surface water. So, and on your groundwater as well, because we can't rule out the groundwater. Of course. The surface and the groundwater are connected. So really, we need to be the best caretakers of our resource.
What about implications of climate change?
Climate change then puts a spoke in our wrench in our spokes, we like to say. with increased temperatures, you have increased rainfall activity, which for shorter periods of time, you have flooding. Now, if we're taking care of our watersheds, your flooding won't be that bad. But if we remove the forestry, then you have a complete free flow of water. Like say when you go skydiving, you free dive. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to have a free flow of water. There's nothing to stop it. There's nothing to take it up. We remove the mangroves, you get higher surges. So last year's team really built on this team because last year was nature for water, using natural processes to help us manage our water resources. And so now this year, we did a segue into water for all, leaving no one behind. So with all of these things that we have encountered in the past as challenges, what are we doing in 2019 and beyond to address all of those? You know, so we're looking, people had, as I mentioned, discrimination. Water and gender. Some women and children don't even go to schools. In Belize, we're lucky that women, female, are in the workforce. Their job in other countries is simply to wake up every morning, walk hundreds of miles to get water, come back. And sometimes the little bit of water that they get and what they consume on the way, by the time they get back, it's not enough. So I have to go back on that journey again.
Wow.
So we're blessed in that term that we do have a lot of water. It's clean. And we don't have a lot of discrimination in terms of water.
Even things like the pollution, the air pollution, we don't have that challenge as much either. I want to ask you though, Tennielle, because when we talk about climate change, it's funny because every year, you know, you have people commenting on the weather. There's more rain, less rain, more heat, less heat. How much have we seen our cycles change in terms of our rainy season?
Well, I think that we have seen it a lot. We have usually in January, during this time, January to March, December, January, February, March, you would see a little bit of rainfall, not too much, but we've been getting a lot of rain lately. It's been getting warmer. Some days, you know, you're traveling on the road to Belmopan, it's very, very foggy and you're wondering, I wonder if it's hot or cold. And by the time you reach Belmopan, you're pouring with sweat. So we have been seeing the temperature changes. It's just that if we're not in the field, we don't pay attention to it.
But I mean, because rainfall is important to us, because that also translates to money. When we look at what it costs to be able to get access to water, what happens at the dam as well in terms of electricity. So that's what, I mean, are we seeing significant reduction or increase in inches over a yearly span?
We haven't.
Or just less stable?
Yeah, we've more or less been seeing the same amount of rainfall, and you could check this with the Met Service because they are the authorities on this. It's just a part of my function. But from my observation, we've been getting more or less the same rainfall, but we have seen peaks, as Shanee has said, you have very high peaks where you have 1 minute, the sky is black, it's hard rain. And in 5 or 10 minutes, it's cleared up. We don't normally see that type of activity. I've always compared it to Barbados. In Barbados, you have to walk with an umbrella because you can't come outside. It's hot sun. And 2 minutes down the road, hard rain is coming. And so me personally have experienced that. So I walk with an umbrella in my bag all the time. I'm not about to get wet and then get dry again.
And then it's a challenge for farmers because you need a more predictable rain cycle, which I think we used to have for quite a while.
But you know, folks wouldn't even understand that just having rainfall is actually a good thing for our rivers, because what it does, it actually flushes out what's not needed, or especially the saline quality of water. You know, it pushes out. One of the things I wanted to jump on though is actually the World Water Day activities, because you're not left out as yet. Leshanti Jones is in with us. She's a PR officer at the Ministry of Natural Resources. Natural Resources. Sorry, I watched my paper. But a lot of people actually look forward to it, and it's very important, especially for the educational aspect for our younger ones who are coming up. These folks going out there to learn much more about it. The 18th to the 22nd. Let's jump on into what we should expect.
Okay, so annually we celebrate World Water Day on March 22nd. And we celebrate this day to highlight the importance of water, fresh water that is, in our daily lives, and to advocate for water resource management, especially in Belize. Now, the main focus of this year's theme, Leaving No One Behind, is universal access to safe water, to clean water. And this year, to commemorate World Water Day, the World Water Day Committee will be hosting a week of activities, like you rightly mentioned, commencing from the 18th of March to the 22nd, which is the actual day. We will be commencing with an opening ceremony at Escuela Técnica. Yes.
Secundaria Mexico.
Yes. And we're starting from the north. We have invited several secondary schools to come to attend this opening ceremony. Thereafter, we will be having a water forum. Now, this is where we open the floor to the students so that they can ask questions and we can know what's happening in your area. What are you guys experiencing when it comes to water in your area? Now, we encourage the students to ask questions, and there is no such question as a simple question, because there might be 5 other people in the audience who want to ask that same question. Yeah. So we encourage the students to ask the questions that they want to ask. If you don't want to ask the question, you can pull one of the committee members aside and yes, you can pull them aside and ask them.
So is there a theme for the forum?
Well, we go back to the same theme.
Leave no one.
Yes, leaving no one behind.
Yeah.
And there's a competition there, right?
In some of the rural villages in Corozal, for example, where Escuela Secundaria is, they still use wells. You know, what's the number of people who, which is access to water, but it's just that it's not as controlled.
Yeah.
Right. The area of control comes in with water governance, and that's a whole nother show for you to discuss water governance.
So many different aspects of water.
Right. They are controlled by their village water boards, and so they're the ones who connect people to their system. And so what they're doing is that actually we have more people using wells than we have using surface water. So that is something new. Previously, we had more urban use of surface water than rural, but as we do the investigations and we do the inventories.
What's surface water?
Well, your rivers.
Okay,
sorry,
thank you.
Your rivers. I tend to get
Thank
technical
you.
and forget these things. Your rivers.
Yeah. So instead of getting it straight from the river, they go to the well to
right,
get it.
It's accessible, it's clean, because your groundwater goes through natural processes that we mimic with the water from our rivers. We put it through all these membranes and these different processes to get it to a certain quality. Yeah. Whereas some areas with groundwater, you already are taking it out at that quality. Yeah. So groundwater is technically more expensive than your surface water or your river water.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So again, and that's why I asked if there was a theme for the forum, because I know that there are a lot of wells in that area. Right. So the young people will just get to ask any water-related question to you're the panel here?
No, we have other. No, we don't like to be on the hot seat too much. We have our World Water Day Committee members, which is the Department of the Environment. We have Belize Water Services. We have the Public Utilities Commission. We have UB, which is academia. We have Crystal, Bowen and Bowen. We have BCOL, Rural Development, Ministry of Health, and of course, Hydrology. Yeah. So we have a wide cross-section of persons who will be on the panel that you can ask questions to.
Okay. And it's very important that they ask the questions. Now, one of the things, I did mention competition because I felt that, especially with the team, something would fall in line with that. Is there anything going on with that?
Well, we do have 2 competitions. We have a poetry competition, and we also have a photography competition. The poetry competition, we will be hosting an open mic night where we have two
categories.
Yes, 2 categories. We have the general and we have for students. And we also have some very attractive prizes.
Really?
Yes. You get a tablet. For the first prize, you get a tablet with $250 cash.
Nice.
Plus 1 year internet.
Yes.
For to say details.
251 tablet plus 1 year internet.
Yes.
Man.
Nice. But you have to perform your poem. You can't just submit it.
Yes. You have to submit and then you perform it.
Good.
And it's around the team though? It has to
yes, it has to be connected. Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And then we have the photography contest.
Yeah.
And that's where we collaborate with BWS. We have 2 categories as well. We have the single photo and we also have the storyboard. This is where you use a photograph to depict your water story. That is. The first prize for the single photo, that is $300 cash.
Nice.
So you just need to take one photo.
One photo.
That
Yes,
depicts
one photo.
the theme.
The
Right.
thing.
Yes.
Leaving
Yeah.
no one behind.
Leaving
yes.
no one behind.
No caption necessary, just the photo.
But we have the complete, she would say, the rules. Because we have to have rules.
Yes.
If we just leave it open, we have to have rules. And so you can, it's very lengthy. So
A whole new money
it's a
too
very,
again.
yes, we have to be fair and equitable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right? So we have to
Absolutely.
give everyone a fair chance. So we have to go into the, what
So
you
it's
say, the
an
nitty-gritty.
amateur-only competition?
Yeah, we're not doing professional and amateur because
It's
what
whoever
our
wants.
experience
Yes.
is that when you set a certain level, other people tend to shy away, and
Ah.
sometimes the
Right.
amateurs are the ones who give you the best pictures
pictures.
Okay.
because
Yeah.
what we say, they're innocent to the whole thing. They're just taking a picture and telling their story.
Yeah.
But the other one is the best picture storyboard,
Storyboard,
and that carries $500 cash
Okay.
for the prize.
So that's a series of photos.
Yes.
Yes.
A
Minimum
minimum
of
of 5 and a maximum of 8 photos that you can use to tell
Okay.
your story.
So where do you put your photos? You have to upload it. You have to.
Okay, you email them to hydrology@naturalresources.gov.bz, and you also have an email address for BWS that escapes me right now that you need to submit.
But you got to check out the guidelines, and you said you can
Right.
get those online.
Right.
Yeah.
And
You
the
can-
deadline is today.
Oh.
No, well, that is today.
Yes, it's today.
Yes, it's today. It's March 13th, the deadline. So you
Good
still have
thing
time
is
up to
that
midnight
the phone
tonight.
cameras
Okay.
take great photos now, so you don't
Yes.
have to worry about
For
I might find
editing.
something today.
And
Right.
you can always find the guidelines on the Belize Water Services Facebook page.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I mentioned that there's a first prize for the single photo. There's also a second prize and a third prize.
Oh.
The second prize is $200 and the third prize is $100.
My God. Things are
So this year we
snap your
came with a
picture.
bang.
Yes. You have enough time
Yeah.
to get it between now and midnight. You have enough time to
So-
go and take a picture.
So you take that picture and you upload it again. Where?
You can
Hydrology.
email it to hydrology@naturalresources.gov.bz, or you can check for the guidelines. It gives you the email address for BWS that you would submit it to.
Okay.
And we're really looking forward to everyone participating in these contests because it shows us the interest as stakeholders, because we all are stakeholders.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we don't, one person does something wrong, and depending on the magnitude, you have a lot of other people suffering.
Yeah.
In the case with the agrochemicals, I'm getting my water, I'm fine, but what happens to my downstream neighbors?
That's right.
So we are each other's keeper.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so the theme for these competitions, water for all.
Yeah.
That's what you want to depict.
Leaving
no one
Leaving
no
no
one
one
behind.
The
Right,
summary
'cause
of it is water for all.
Nice.
Okay.
And in leaving no one behind, we are going to be doing some roaming presentations
Okay.
in Kikaka as well as Belize City. So we started up north, we're going to the Keys, and we're coming down to Belize City.
Nice.
We will also have our water fair in Cayo, in San Ignacio, and that's going to be on the actual day, March 22nd.
22nd. Yeah.
Yes, this is where we will be having approximately 10 booths. More so the
Different government agencies. We have some purified water bottlers that are
That will
going to
be
be
there.
there.
Yeah.
We have Alcaboose, and we have some other, I can't remember the next one, Aquatica. Aquatica purified
Okay.
water. They will be there, giving samples, telling us about their processes,
Yeah.
how green they are, whatever processes they have within their operation.
Okay.
But to extend that, we also have other partners, like in Toledo. Toledo is always far. They tend to be left out. And
left
so in
out.
leaving no
Yeah.
one behind, we have our partners from the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
We call them the Toledo chapter. They're having World Water Day events as well. They're
Okay.
having two events. They're having on the 20th in San Antonio, Toledo.
Yes.
They're having an exhibition there. And then on actual World Water Day, March 22nd, they're going to have a water fair similar to ours in PG Town. So
Oh,
we,
nice.
we definitely have to big
So
up
you
our
could
colleagues
do the
in
water
Toledo.
fair in PG, or you can do it in San Ignacio.
Right, and-
Wherever is closest for you.
And if you notice our pattern, we're leaving no one behind. We have transboundary rivers, we're up north,
Yeah.
we're west, and we're south.
And the keys.
And the Keys.
And the keys. Cool.
Right.
All right. Well, ladies, best of luck with your activities. Once again, that reminder, the competition The photography competitions closed today, as well as the poetry competition.
Right.
So get online, find the guidelines, and participate, because there's some pretty good prizes.
Right, and it would be remiss of me if I didn't mention our sponsors.
Okay.
I would get stoned if I didn't mention my sponsors.
I know what's still, it'll just be harder begging next year.
I agree. We have to thank our corporate sponsors. We have businesses who have been with us from day one, and they continue to support us. So we have Atlantic Bank coming on this year, and they are our largest donor this year, and so we want to give them kudos. I mean, it's a financial institution, you know, you're looking, what do they have in common with water, you know, to be sponsoring an event. So it shows us that we're doing something right. So we have Full Tech Systems, we have BTL, we have Beeline, we have Cybodega, that's a grocery store, who would think, right? Angela's Press, Belize Formulators, Alcaboose, Aquatic Purified Water, Chentech Belize, and RW Water Solutions. So as you see from our sponsors, we're very diverse. So it means, it signals to us that we're doing something right.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in and reminding us once again how important it is that we appreciate and protect the water that we have.
Right, and be sure not to miss our open mic night tomorrow at the Radisson, 7 p.m., where you can see the poets in style and fashion.
And you can help cheer on whoever will win the competition too.
And you can see for next year that you should enter.
John, you go do the poetry. I'll leave that to you. We're going to go ahead and take our final break, and when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up, so stay tuned.